Prime Minister instructs the National Election Commission to explore the possibility of holding the provincial council polls. TNA MPs abstain from voting the 2021 budget. C.V. Vigneswaran and 4 other Muslim Congress MPs not present in Parliament during the vote. Trade unions warn of strict action if the East Container Terminal is given to foreign entities. Pregnant mother infected with COVID-19 gives birth to twins.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News, coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. I'm Bernadine Jayasinghe. Let's now take a look at your top story tonight. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa today instructed the members of the Elections Commission to explore the possibility of conducting the Provincial Council elections as soon as possible while looking into the necessary legal provisions.
The new chairman Nimal Punjiheva and members of the National Election Commission met with Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa at his official residence in Vijayarama today. The Prime Minister had instructed the National Election Commission to explore the possibility of conducting the election according to the old or present electoral system. The National Election Commission pointed out that the necessary legal provisions need to be made at the ministerial level in order to change the electoral system. The Prime Minister's media unit apprised the Commission to conduct the Provincial Council elections according to the old system and thereafter draft the necessary legislation and conduct the future election according to the new electoral system. The members of the National Election Commission said the existing election laws need to be amended, pointing out the need for assistance from the Committee of Selection of the Parliament. The Prime Minister said a request with regards to the matter was forwarded to the Speaker as well.
Budget for the year 2021 was passed with a 2/3 majority in Parliament yesterday. How did the parliamentarians vote the 2021 budget yesterday? This is a look back on that.
The budget was passed in Parliament with 151 votes yesterday. Only 54 votes were cast against the budget. 17 MPs were absent when the vote was called for the budget. All the 10 Tamil National Alliance MPs were absent in the parliamentary complex when voting began. Leader of the Tamil National Alliance R. Sambandhan, Selvam Adaikkalanathan, Govindan Karunakaram, Dharmalingam Siddharthan, S. Nogahadalingam, S. Sridharan, M.A. Sumandiran, Charles Nirmalanathan, Rasamanikam Shanakyan and Thavaraja Kalayarasan are the MPs who were not there when the voting was called up in Parliament. State Minister of National Security Chamal Rajapaksa and TMVP MP Sivanesathurai Chandrakanthan aka Pillayan were also absent in Parliament yesterday. Faisal Kazim, HMM Haris, HM Tawfiq, Nazir Ahmed are the MPs representing Sri Lanka Muslim Congress who were absent in the House. The same set of MPs voted in favour of the 20th Amendment to the Constitution. Meanwhile, MP of Tamil Makkal Thesiya Kuttani C.V. Vigneswaran was also absent in Parliament when voting for the 2021 budget was taken up.
What is the reason behind the absence of MPs representing the Tamil National Alliance during the voting process for Budget 2021 in Parliament?
We collectively decided that we will not take part in the vote when the second reading was made in Parliament. The budget was presented in Parliament when COVID-19 is spreading in the country. However, there were lapses in the budget and we pointed them out. There was no budget for this year. Therefore, the country needs a budget and it will be passed in Parliament. Due to this reason, we decided to abstain from voting. That is why we were not there at the parliamentary complex when the voting was called up.
Even though the Tamil National Alliance represents the opposition, there have been a myriad of instances where they swore allegiance to previous governments. The TNA voted against the no-confidence motion brought against former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe in the year 2018. The TNA did not hesitate to vote in favour of the UNP-led Good Governance government with the assistance of the 14 MPs. The TNA held discussions with Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa during the 52-day constitutional coup in the year 2018.
The government has decided to immediately implement several proposals in the 2021 budget. The ceiling on interest for housing and asset loans for state sector employees has been reduced to 7%. The housing and asset loan concessions for state sector employees will be applicable for loans obtained and to be obtained. Under concessions granted for setting up solar panels, loans for solar panels will be provided at an interest rate lower than 4%. The loan scheme will be implemented through 10 selected private and public institutions. Vouchers to purchase shoes will be given to both lay and clergy students studying at Pirivena institutions. Working capital loans will be provided to small and medium-scale enterprises affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Covering the expenses of the state employees who were diagnosed with COVID-19 through Agrahara medical insurance is currently underway. Provision of capital for young entrepreneurs is being conducted through the Turunudiriya program. Under the program, startup capital loans for new businesses will be provided at an interest rate of 4% for loans up to 500,000 rupees. The program will be conducted through the regional development banks. The Kiri Shakti Deshiya Kiri loan scheme will be implemented to promote local dairy farmers. Under this program that will be implemented immediately, dairy farmers can obtain concessionary loans of up to 1 million rupees from regional development banks.
Meanwhile, rating agency Standard & Poor's has downgraded its long-term sovereign credit rating on Sri Lanka to CCC+ from B- over concerns of a high budget deficit and increasing external financial risks. In its overview, the rating agency said, with the implementation of expansionary budget measures in Sri Lanka, it expects the country's fiscal position to deteriorate materially over the next few years in the absence of favorable economic and financial conditions. It adds that existing funding support from official sources do not appear sufficient to cover financial needs, which means that Sri Lanka may require external commercial funding, which can be difficult and costly. The rating agency added they could further lower Sri Lanka's rating if external buffers decline substantially or access to external financing proves extremely difficult, which would hurt Sri Lanka's debt servicing capacity. The state of Sri Lanka's economy figured heavily during the budget debate in Parliament.
We have focused on a number of aspects during this budget. The first aspect is growth. We intend to make the necessary investments utilizing the help of the private sector as well. We expect to establish the infrastructure in order to stabilize the rupee. That is why we have allocated funds for fields such as water, highways, roadways and education.
They claim they would reduce imports and create a production economy. In political terms, it is an enticing theory. Not even the big players in Latin America succeeded in creating such economies. Neither could India. A country as small as ours cannot bear such alternative policies. Pursuing such a policy will only result in a repeat of what happened in 1971 and 1977. Where are the funds to launch such a policy? Our revenue is insufficient to service this year's debt. In that case, we will have to obtain more debt. On the other hand, they claim that they oppose obtaining loans. If so, what is the process they will follow in order to remove the country from its insurmountable debt? They speak of modern monetary theory. They can print money at their will, but such an act will only result in increased inflation. Then the rupee will depreciate further.
The key point of former Minister Harsha De Silva's speech was there was no country which succeeded through a production-based economy. We have not decided to isolate ourselves from the rest of the world and stop trading. We have always allowed imports and we will continue to allow them. We have not stopped imports, but we have imposed limitations. What is wrong with that?
අපි සීමා පනවලා තියෙනවා රටේ නිෂ්පාදනය වැඩි කරන්න. මම අහන්න කැමතියි මොකක්ද ඒකේ ඇති වරද? මේ ගෝලීය මූල්‍ය දාමේ
We cannot isolate ourselves and escape globalization. Fitch Rating has downgraded Sri Lanka to CCC. If this worsens, we won't even be on the list. Moody has issued a release saying the framework initiated by the government to enhance revenue is unsuccessful. The budget deficit is forecast to amount to 9% of total GDP in 2021. The government's wish is developed through loans, but loans cannot be obtained unless these ratings are increased. They do not raise direct taxes, but increase indirect taxes and attack the impoverished. They attempted to impose a cess tax on 2,574 goods. However, nothing was mentioned during the budget speech. They will only provide benefits to their posse.
සෞභාග්‍යයේ ගජමිතුරන්ට පමණයි මේකේ වාසිය ලැබුණේ. අපි බඩු වැඩි කරන්න තියෙන එක.
Our procedure of increasing taxes is different to that of the previous government. They wanted to increase the tax to the GDP ratio. When the base weakens, the amount of tax we can collect reduces. Therefore, we need to work towards increasing our tax base. Another frequently asked question is whether we will obtain funds from other nations. Certain swap deals we have initiated have been accepted. $1 billion have been allocated to the port city, which will be considered an investment. The airport renovation project has cost us $700 million US. The investment of the Shandong tire factory is $300 million US. Certain quarters may claim that rating agencies have downgraded us. What is the actual response from investors? The turnover at the stock market since August is over 2.5 billion on average. We can see how confidence has grown.
බිලියන 2.5කට වඩා වැඩි. ඉතින් ඒකෙම පෙනී යනවා විශ්වාසනීය භාවය කොච්චර දුරට වැඩි වෙලාද කියලා. 2019 දෙසැම්බර් 1
State revenue has dwindled by today because of the raft of concessions provided to the uber rich back in December 2019. We are here now because of the new liberal tax policy. If we talk realistically about income, it is only 1,350 billion, but they claim it's 1,500 billion. However, they have forecast a revenue of 2,029 billion. 2021 will be a tough year. Government revenue will fall by more than 50%. Aren't they only trying to fool themselves and the country? 1.5 trillion is required to pay off debts. However, what is the situation like today? Treasury bills were issued on the 4th, 11th, 14th and 25th of November worth 159.3 billion rupees, but due to the low interest rate, only 70.3 billion rupees was accepted, which is only 44%. That is the state of treasury bills in the month of November. That is how stellar the local financial market is. What will happen next? The government will have to print the deficit. How much has been printed? From the 1st of November to the 1st of December, 130 billion rupees have been printed. Can this be sustained? We will experience the adverse consequences of money printing. Regardless of how many tax concessions are granted, the increase in the cost of living, the rise in the prices of essential items by more than 50% only prove that the modern monetary theory was a failure. Their solution to this is selling off state assets. They will source funds through selling the ports, airports, or by selling the power plant in Putlam. The first step of selling that power plant was completed through the disbanding of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. What are they doing with the land which housed the Manning market? They want to sell it off to foreigners.
කරන්න යන්නේ මොකද? ඒ ආශ්‍රිත සියලුම ඉඩම් විදේශිකයන්ට විකුණන්න තමයි අද සැලසුම් කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
Against a backdrop where the budget has been passed in Parliament, the handing over of the East Container Terminal at the Colombo port to the Adani Group of companies in India have come to the fore. According to a cabinet paper that was supposedly presented by Minister Rohit Abe Gunawardena, there was a requirement for an investor to develop the East Container Terminal of the Colombo port. Contents were included in the cabinet paper explaining the ability and the preparation of the Adani Group of companies in that regard. The cabinet paper had also proposed to appoint a committee to explore the possibility of involving India's Adani Group into the already agreed memorandum of understanding between India, Japan and Sri Lanka for the operations of the East Container Terminal during the tenure of the previous government. According to the cabinet paper, the secretaries to the ministries of Ports, Highways, Power, Justice and Labour, an additional Treasury Secretary as well as the chairman of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority were to form the committee. However, chairman of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, retired General Daya Ratnayaka, said the committee is yet to convene. He added that cabinet approval is yet to be given to the Adani Group of companies to come on board and develop the East Container Terminal. Trade unions attached to the Sri Lanka Ports Authority said the East Container Terminal is perfectly capable of carrying out its operations under the Ports Authority and does not need the involvement of foreign entities.
The වර්තමාන අමාත්‍යවරයා කැබිනට් පේපර් එකක් දාලා තියෙනවා.
The present Minister of Port has submitted a cabinet paper that clearly says we will own 51% of the terminal and 49% will be given to other companies. In the cabinet paper, it says that we do not have the necessary funds to carry out the operation, so we have to find investors. We would like to clearly state to the Minister that we do have the funds and the technology to run the operations. Therefore, we do not need any investors. We do not have to obtain loans. The Sri Lanka Ports Authority possesses the strength to build the East Container Terminal of the Colombo port. They are now saying that they will bring down investors. Why are they trying to do that? At present, the East Container Terminal is operated under the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. As of yesterday, we have operated 18 ships at the East Container Terminal. We have handled approximately 20,000 containers. We have earned nearly 100 million rupees from the operations. So why do we need to bring down investors? The shipping service called Indus, owned by MSC, has sent us a mail saying that they will dock 366 ships at the East Container Terminal. They have said that they will also grant us a feeder service along with docking their ships. We embark on investment just like that. Our question is as to why we want to sell off this when the present situation is as such.
ඉතින් බලන්න මොන තරම් සම්පතක්ද මේක. මේක අපිට ආදායම බලාගෙන ඉද්දි අපිට ආදායම් ගන්න පුළුවන් මාර්ගය අපිට මේ විවර වෙනවා. එහෙම තියෙද්දි අයි අපි මේක
Large ships can be docked and operated at the East Container Terminal, which is located in the deep sea within 70 hectares in the ocean. Amidst the constant cries of the trade unions attached to the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, the operations at the East Container Terminal was restarted on the 27th of October this year after establishing the gantry cranes that were brought for the fifth phase construction work of the Jaya Container Terminal. Quite contrary to all of this, according to the cabinet paper presented by Minister Rohita Begunawardena, Sri Lanka Ports Authority do not have sufficient funds to carry out operations at the East Container Terminal. Thereby, he had pointed out the need of the Adani Group of companies to manage the operations at the terminal. The Adani Group of companies in India is currently carrying out operations at major ports in India, including Mundra, Dahej and Hazira. India has introduced the Sagarmala project to counter the string of pearl project of China that is being carried out under the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. The Adani Group of companies have very carefully selected the ports they operate, considering its territorial value.
With the Manning Market complex being moved to Paliagoda, the plot of land the market operated in Petta is now left vacant. The Urban Development Authority said that the plot of land is being considered for an investment project. Meanwhile, a group of vendors at the Manning Market began a fast yesterday opposite the Fort Railway Station, claiming that they have suffered injustice when the market complex was moved to Paliagoda. These vendors claim that their market spaces at the Manning Market have been divided in half. All people must be given equal stalls. Some people have been given large spaces. Some vendors who sold beetle leaves have been given large spaces. Officials of the Urban Development Authority allowed 10 of the protesting vendors to hold discussions with them. The vendors who held the discussion said they reached an agreement with the authorities. The group of protesters then dispersed. We are ending this fast. Everyone here will get their stalls. Nothing bad is going to happen.
Meanwhile, self-employees who had set up temporary shops at Golface claimed that the independent port consultants firm instructed them to leave the premises. Representatives of the Golface Self-Employed Workers Union handed over a memorandum to the Presidential Secretariat today. The memorandum stated the difficulties faced by them.
We have been self-employed for 25 years. We are in favor of the President's policy, but we need to know the invisible hand behind this. The independent port consultants firm was established by the former Minister of Ports and Shipping during the period of the previous government. This is what the minister's firm is doing to these innocent traders. I can prove that there was embezzlement of 1 billion rupees. Please conduct an impartial investigation on this independent consultants firm immediately. Until then, do not ask the traders to vacate the premises.
During a visit to inquire into the Ampara Rambakanoe forest destruction, leader of the indigenous community Uruwarge Vanilattu reiterated that he would take matters to court if steps are not taken to prevent forest destruction. I arrived here to witness this location with my own eyes. When you observe this reserve area, a mountain range can be seen. It is those water sources that flow into the Rambakanoe. Now, if a member of the indigenous community breaks a branch of a tree, a court case will be filed. However, no one observes forest destruction like this. This is a national crime. No one has the right to destroy these. They have been given to a foreign company. It is wrong to do so. This has to stop immediately. If it is not stopped, we will go to courts together with the Center for Environmental Justice.
You're watching Primetime News. Let's now cross over to a short commercial break.
Do your online shopping now with Sambole.lk to get it home delivered or pick up on your way.
Sambole.lk.
Welcome back to the news. Let's now take a look at the COVID-19 update for today. 762 COVID-19 patients were discovered today. This was confirmed by the Department of Government Information. While 461 patients identified today are contacts of the Paliagoda cluster, 75 are from prisons. 570 COVID-19 patients recovered today, bringing the total number of recoveries in the island to 22,831. The COVID-19 death toll in the island stands at 146.
Meanwhile, a woman admitted to the Colombo East-based hospital with COVID-19 has given birth to twins. The 23-year-old woman has given birth after being transferred to Colombo East-based hospital from Colombo Castle Street Women's Hospital due to complications. The mother is diagnosed with diabetes as well. The infants were not fully grown and we had to deliver them at 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. During the delivery, the mother was under severe pressure. It's called preeclampsia. We had to act immediately under special conditions. She was expecting twins and we had to resort to a cesarean birth. As soon as the pregnancy period surpassed 37 weeks, we managed to deliver the babies.
The medical superintendent of the Vatupitiwala District Hospital said that clinical trials of the COVID-19 herbal tonic prepared by indigenous medical practitioner were not conducted at the district hospital. He said that he had only provided some observations on the herbal tonic and that he was not informed of anything more.
Indigenous medical practitioner Dhammika Bandara said that clinical trials of the herbal tonic that combats COVID-19 were being conducted at the Vatupitiwala District Hospital. This was conducted with the intervention of Dr. Dhammika Kumara attached to the public health unit of the hospital. He said that a few patients at the hospital had requested his permission to consume the herbal tonic that was obtained externally. He added that 140 COVID-19 patients at the hospital were given the herbal tonic, and when 10 of them were subsequently subject to a PCR test, they tested negative for the virus. Based on these results, with the permission from the Ministry of Health, a pool of 50 patients were separated into two groups of 25 each. One group was given the herbal tonic, while the other group was given a different substance. Dr. Dhammika Kumara said that PCR samples of the pool of 50 patients were then obtained, and 31 of the samples were sent to the Maharagama Hospital, while 19 of them were sent to the Institute of Infectious Diseases. The Institute of Infectious Diseases had refused to conduct the PCR test on the samples as it was outside the proper procedure. The PCR test conducted on the 31 samples sent to the Maharagama Hospital confirmed that 16 patients who consumed the herbal tonic and 2 patients who consumed alternate substances had recovered from the infection. Dr. Dhammika Kumara said that one patient who was given an alternate substance had tested negative for the virus before. Over 100 COVID-19 vaccines have been tested globally, and none of them have proven to provide 100% protection from the virus. The American Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine that is currently in use boosts immunity within 12 days of receiving the first dose, and the patients will develop full immunity after receiving the second dose, which is administered after 21 days. The COVID-19 vaccine produced by the Oxford University is 70% effective against the virus. The Russian Sputnik V vaccine is 92% effective against the COVID-19 virus. Thereby, assuming that the observations made at the Vatupitivela hospital are accurate, the herbal tonic prepared by Dhammika Bandara from Kegol is the first medical drug that can destroy the virus in a patient already infected and is also 100% effective against the COVID-19 virus. The oversight of an Ayurvedic doctor who is registered under the Ayurvedic Medical Council is required to obtain a permit to produce any Ayurvedic drug. So although these drugs can be recommended by anyone based on their whims and fancies, there are many steps that must be followed for these drugs to be administered to the general public. Just because a person presents a formula, he cannot claim that he is a practitioner of indigenous medicine or an Ayurvedic doctor or some form of local medical practitioner. We can see a serious issue cropping up here. These matters must be rectified. Meanwhile, State Minister Sisira Jayakodi on the 9th of December announced that the herbal tonic to combat COVID-19 prepared by Dhammika Bandara from Kegol has been approved for use as a food supplement for COVID-19 patients by the Ministry of Indigenous Medicine and the Ayurvedic Department. We are now conducting clinical trials on it. It will take us a few more days to get the results. The Ayurvedic Department has not given an approval for the people to freely use this as a food substitute.
Most of those who are affected by COVID-19 are asymptomatic. They cease to be infective after about 10 days. And most of them don't need any treatment. If there are symptoms like throat discomfort, sometimes drinking warm water or even a sugary syrup might help. However, they are not proven to be a cure to the disease. What happens there is any liquid that has high sugar concentration can coat the inflamed surface in the throat, and that can give a temporary relief. But it is not a cure. At the moment, there is no drug that has been proven by such protocols and guidelines to show as a cure for COVID-19. Therefore, the prominence given to any remedy or any treatment as a cure for COVID-19 will only divert the attention from the basic preventive measures and will lead to a jeopardization of the preventive effort.
Meanwhile, a group of about 100 people gathered at the residence of Dhammika Bandara in Kegol to obtain the herbal tonic produced by him.
I have been barred from issuing this medicine until the 18th. I have not invited anyone to come here today to get the medicine. If I give the medicine to anyone today, these officers can arrest me. If I am arrested, you will definitely not get the medicine. So I cannot give you the medicine. You will get the medicine through the Grama Seva office. I will ask him for a name list of people and the medicine will be provided according to that. You are acting contrary to the COVID-19 regulations that have been announced. If you break the law, both you and I will be in trouble.
Most of us are fortunate to be born into the luxuries we often take for granted. But the lives of some in rural Sri Lanka are not so fortunate.
This family of three reside in the downtrodden village of Thabana in Madakama Bibila. The father of the family is 73 years of age. The mother is 72. Unfortunately, their 35-year-old son is an individual with special needs. They have spent most of their lives in this mud hut they call home.
අතට කන්න ගියේ කාල දුක් පාත් වෙනවා රුවටයිත ගියයි ජීවිත නැති වෙනවා
මේ කුලී වැඩ කරලා තමයි ජීවත් වෙන්නේ. එන්න හතක් දෙනකුන් එක ඒවා ඉතින් බලන්නත් එපා මම. සබන් ටික සේරම ටික මම ගෙනත්දා දෙන්න ඕනේ මේ ළමින්ට. එයාගේ අනාගතේ තමයි මාත් මේ කියන්නේ.
Although the father is 75 years of age, he cannot rest during the winter of his life. He has no choice but to work in order to keep the home fires burning.
ඉතින් මගේ තාත්තාගේ වයස හොඳටම අම්මත් වයසයි එයා තමයි මගේ කොහොම හරි ඉවත් කරන්නේ ඊට දොරක් තමයි රවණන්නේ ඉතින් කාණ්ඩ පොන්න ඉතින් හැමදේම අපේ අම්මා තමයි හොයලා දෙන්නේ.
These lives do not see silver linings. All they see is the glimmer of a kerosene lamp. Their plight is no fault of theirs, but ignoring such a plight would haunt our conscience continuously.
Today's Treasury bond auction was undersubscribed by over 15%, with 84.4 billion rupees of securities sold after offering 100 billion rupees.
Total bids received amounted to 142.9 billion rupees, 1.4 times of what was offered. The Treasury bonds were offered under three series: 40 billion rupees of securities at a coupon rate of 7%, another 40 billion rupees at 5.35% and 20 billion at 8%. The Treasury bonds offered at 7% were undersubscribed by 654 million rupees. Treasury bonds offered at 5.35% were undersubscribed by 10.2 billion rupees, while the securities offered at 8% were undersubscribed by 4.7 billion rupees.
A promising Australian candidate for a COVID-19 vaccine has been abandoned after trial participants returned false HIV positive results.
Australia had previously agreed to buy 51 million doses of the vaccine being developed by CSL Limited Australia, a biotechnological company, and the University of Queensland. The government said orders of other vaccines would now fill the shortfall. CSL Limited and the University of Queensland stressed that the positive results were false, meaning trial participants' health was not at risk. The Australian government said it had now entered an agreement for the Novavax vaccine and upped its existing order of the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine. The UK was the first to begin rolling out a vaccine from Pfizer this week. The vaccine had been in stage 1 of the trials and proving to be effective in making antibodies. However, it generated HIV antibodies in some recipients, which meant it showed false positives for HIV. Further testing proved the HIV wasn't there. CSL Limited and the University of Queensland said fixing the flaw would take about a year, prompting a decision to abandon the trial.
Meanwhile, UK and Russian scientists are teaming up to trial a combination of the Oxford-AstraZeneca and Sputnik V vaccines to see if protection against COVID-19 can be improved.
Mixing two similar vaccines could lead to a better immune response in people. The trials to be held in Russia will involve over 18-year-olds, although it's not clear how many people will be involved. Oxford recently published results showing their jab was safe and effective in trials on people. The researchers are still collecting data on the effectiveness of the vaccine in old age groups while waiting for approval from the UK regulator, the MHRA. AstraZeneca said it was exploring combinations of different adenovirus vaccines to find out whether mixing them leads to a better immune response and therefore a greater protection.
With that, we wrap up Primetime News. I'm Bernadine Jai Singha. Good night. Take care.